People. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to inspire your personal creativity, and our goal with the podcast is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. I know I always say I can't wait for you to hear this conversation, but I truly am looking forward to you hearing this conversation with Karina. It was so fun chatting with her just now. She is absolutely delightful, classy in every way. She is a transplant from Mexico to Canada. She's bilingual. She's just a super cool gal. And we had some really great conversations about stitching, about life, and how to strike a good balance between taking commissions for people and selling your art and personal life and mental health and sort of balancing all of that. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Get cozy, pull up a chair, pull up your stitching, and have fun getting to know Karina. Karina, thank you so much for coming on the Stitch People podcast. Tell us where you are joining us from today.
Well, I am in Canada. I am in a small town called Maple Ridge in British Columbia.
Okay.
Also known as Vancouver, because it's in the area of Vancouver.
Okay.
We have a lot of rain. So yeah, all the way in this corner of the world.
How has your rain been lately? I mean, I feel like that whole side of the continent has been getting slammed. Have you been okay?
Here we've been fine completely. There's been a lot of rain. I can see the river going up and up and up, every day when I'm driving, I'm like, oh, it looks, but so far so good. I think we had some flooding 2 winters ago, like in the middle of winter, it was horrible, but so far right now we've been like normal. Just good. Hopefully it stays that way. Yeah.
Glad to hear you're safe. So are you born and raised Canada?
No.
Tell me, tell us your life story. What happened? You were born and then what?
It's a lot. You know what? I like this one because my husband will make fun of me because I always, when I'm trying to tell a story, I'll go, like 10 years back. And he's like, oh, here we go.
You got to have the context.
Exactly. But no, I was born and raised in Mexico in the northern part of the country in a city that is called Monterrey. It's up north. It's really close to Texas. It's a really, really hot, dry climate. Like our regular kind of average weather, it's like in the 40s Celsius, which is extremely, extremely. I don't know what that's in Fahrenheit, but it's extremely hot. Yeah, it's extremely hot. It's not
that's 104 degrees. Fahrenheit.
It's just bad. And our weather will go to the high 40s. So it's really bad. But I was born and raised there. I moved to Canada when I was 20. I was going to turn 21.
Oh, wow.
And I moved here already, with my just being a complete and 100% Mexican into a different country where, I was so different and I didn't have any friends. I didn't know a single person. So, I've been here for 13 years now. So this is home for sure now. But I'm still actually discovering, like in the last little while, say maybe a few years with all of the, time that we have to be inside and to think and explore and whatever. I think I have explored into how much I have changed just from being surrounded by a different culture. How all the things that I have left of me because I would like to adapt to the new culture and not be the different one, not be maybe the weird one or the different one. And I think this year I want to try to take more of the old Karina out, being more myself because I think I missed that part of myself. I think I'll benefit a lot from it. I think my family, now I have kids and I'm pretty sure they'll benefit from that side of Karina that it's been hidden for so long because you just don't want to be the different one, right? When you're, especially like in your 20s, when you're discovering life and discovering what relationships are and stuff like that, right? So, yeah. So I've been here for 13 years. So it's been a long time. I'm married now. My husband, he's from Canada. He's from Quebec, actually. So he also speaks French. He speaks fully Spanish as well. He's amazing. Wow.
Did he speak Spanish before he met you or did he learn?
No, he told me that he's always been interested in. When we met, we have the craziest story of how we met. And he just had a few words here and there. But then I think about 7 years later, after we met, he decided to go to Guatemala for a month to take an intensive.
Oh,
And
wow.
he was fully speaking Spanish when he came back. And yeah, he's awesome that way. Yeah.
That is okay. Okay, pin in the story of how you met. We will circle back to there. But I think it's very brave. Like, I was just thinking what you said. It's so brave to move to a new country. And I think, I don't know. I feel like I've traveled abroad a couple times. I've been really lucky to visit Europe, various places, and I'm always really self-conscious about being an American, because you hear
Yeah.
that other countries perceive Americans as kind of loud and boisterous and not self-aware. And like, I mean, I tend to be a loud person, but just loud in my demeanor and excitement, less loud in a rude way. But, I'm always really, really self-conscious to kind of be putting a lid on it and like blend in. You don't want to draw attention. I don't want to offend anybody.
Exactly.
So, and that's just visits. So I can imagine that there's a lot of pressure when you move to a new country where you kind of want to respect where you are, because every country has their own culture. Every town has their own culture. And so you want to fit in. But then, yeah, I can see how it might be easy to sort of lose how things used to be. And I think that's really, really cool that you're making a conscious effort to sort of marry those things in your family a little more.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's difficult, and I don't think it gets at least maybe for me, it got me in a very vulnerable time because I was in my
Yeah.
early 20s, right? And you just want to fit in. You want to yeah, like I said, not want to be the different one, but yeah, the same for me. Like there's all these stereotypes, right? That they'll
Mm-hmm.
have about Mexicans, and where most of people are very positive and very like, oh, I love Mexico, I love the food and this and that. Like there's always a little something, right? Like I myself too, I'm very loud. I used to have this crazy loud laughter, and now I'm like all like like because like I remember I'm actually studying English in Toronto when I was probably 18, 17, and I remember twice someone in the subway change into a different train because of I was laughing because I was with my friends and we're having a good time, and we were having a good time. I was
Yeah.
laughing, and I was apparently so loud for them. They switched, and that happened twice. And I was like,
Oh, that
it didn't
hurts.
bother me that much then, but I think later it started to. It's the little things, right? Like the little
Yeah,
things
it
here and there, the little
informs.
yeah. And then it's just like, oh yeah, it's been years that I haven't done this because along the way I heard this, or someone made a small comment or a small joke, and then you're like, you know. So
Right.
yeah. hmm
Oh,
it's
wow.
definitely, and especially like I truly believe that, yeah, people don't know how difficult it is to leave everyone and everything behind. I moved there when I was 20. Like I already have my set of friends.
Oh,
I
yeah.
already have my life there. And it was an exciting time. Like I wanted to do it. But then of course you think it's all rainbows and butterflies and you get there and you're like, okay, this is not what I thought.
Yeah, it's hard.
And you're
And you don't
so
have
far away.
anybody to rely on to help you through it because
No, and
they're all in a
yeah,
different country.
exactly that. And also you don't want to maybe prove them right that they were telling you that this is going to be hard and you're like, oh no. But a part
Right.
of your which is that you could just call and like, yeah, I miss you, or yeah, this is not being as
Yeah.
easy. I fortunately have a really good time when I was here, but yeah, it's to this day I was just talking to my friends about this, that to this day it's hard. Like um I have culture shock a lot, like most every day I do have them, because just yeah, the way that I am is just so different from a
Yeah. Even
Canadian.
13
Like,
years later.
yeah, of course, because especially like, yeah, I'm from a very different culture, but also myself. Like, I
Right.
am myself, and I'm very loud, and I speak a lot, and I used to be very, very chatty, and now I'm not as chatty because, well, like people are like, oh, you don't, they ooh, comment is like, you've been going for a while, so you have to like,
Sure.
tune it down.
Oh,
But yeah, it's definitely hard, and not everyone is as brave to even make that step. So I do pat myself in the back many times and like, you know what?
oh yeah. I think
Like
it's so
you,
brave. It's so impressive. Anybody who even just
yeah,
speaks two languages, that you are living day to day in a city where, the language you were raised speaking is not your everyday language. That's wild to me. I took Spanish in high school for like a semester or two. I never really learned a language until this year. I started using like Duolingo, and it's really hard. And
yeah,
and so even just I don't know. I think bilingual people alone are so impressive. Bilingual people who choose to live full time in another country, like there's so many layers of learning and adapting and difficulty. I can't imagine.
yeah,
I think it's very cool, very brave, very impressive.
yeah. Yeah, and I definitely would like to even like I have told my husband a few times like it would be really cool to move, like to move again to another country and
Yeah.
like and he's like, I'm like, what are you talking? I'm like, well, even just for the experience of it, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't have to go all out like just to stay there for the rest of your life, but just for the experience of it,
Yeah.
like to move to another country with two kids, and like I
Where
think
would
it
you
will
want to
be really
go?
cool. I think I'm very set for some reason in the UK,
Oh, yeah.
like the countryside. Those,
Mhm.
oh my god, like live in a cottage. Of course, I'm dreaming, right? Live in a cottage, or in Downton Abbey, like that type of
Yeah.
life, like countryside in the UK. I think it would be lovely, and at the same time, I could also go for something like as tropical as Hawaii or something like that, like
Yeah. Oh,
you know
yeah.
I think
I
the
was
the
talking
I miss
to
the sunshine sometimes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Parish, her podcast is going to come out next week, and she talks about living in Hawaii. She did like a semester there, and it's so fun to talk to people who've lived there because sometimes you hear that living there is, it's inevitably different um, than visiting, but in a tropical place, I think there's just no getting around it being totally idyllic. You know what I mean?
I
Just
know.
being immersed in that environment, and it's so humid and beautiful. I'm
And the
with you on the
nature,
tropical
the
thing and the UK thing, to
greenery.
be honest, because it's so green and lush there too
Yeah.
that it's beautiful. So my sister lived in the UK for a few years doing a degree, and we visited. And anyway, I just totally know what you mean about there's all these little country villages, and there's the pubs and the post office and these beautiful homes on land. And oh man, I dream like you do. I'm like, oh, I
The
would love to go live in my little
scenery,
remote estate
yes,
and have a little farm and
I
grow my
know.
vegetables. I don't know. It
Sheep,
sounds
and have some
amazing.
sheep and some.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I totally
There's
would
this
love
show
that,
called
but no.
This Farming Life. I've seen it on BritBox is where we've watched it, but it just follows these Scottish farmers, and they live exactly like that. And they breed sheep and cows, and it's just like follows these
Mhm.
farmers and their
I know.
lives in the UK. And I'm like, oh man,
It's so
it's so
good.
much work, but it's so
Oh,
beautiful.
I
Oh,
bet. Yeah. And I think it wouldn't be as different from here because, like I said, we have a lot of rain here. So I think the weather is
yeah,
pretty similar to what I've been living for the last 13 years.
sure.
But
Yeah.
I will love, but yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
Well, tell me more about your family. So you're married, you have kids. How many kids have you got? And
uh,
yeah, tell us a little bit
yeah.
about your
So
family.
I have two little children. My daughter, my first one, she's 6. She'll be 7 this year. And I have
Oh,
another little guy. He's 3. Will be 4 in just 2 months. Mateo. And
oh, I
they're
love
really
that
awesome
name,
kids. Thank you. They're
Mateo.
really awesome kids. They finally are in school, and I can have time to do something like this. And
Perfect.
I also have a sister. She's older than me. She actually moved here the
Yay.
same year as me, but I moved at the beginning of 2009, and she moved here at the end of it.
Okay.
And we both have stayed here, and that's it for siblings for me. And eventually, we were able to move my parents here. So now we're all here
Hey.
together, which has
Oh,
made
fun.
a world of a difference in my mental health because
Totally.
I did the parenting and being married, like trying to find time as a couple to do something when we didn't have a single person. Like, yeah, we have my sister, but my sister also, we have children the same ages.
Oh,
we
fun.
got pregnant, not planned, together the two times. So
Oh my goodness.
she was going through the same as was I, and she also has some family here from her husband, but we didn't have anyone to take care of the kids, and like, for my husband and I. Yeah, so I couldn't just drop my baby, there, like, hey, let me go up for a
Right.
date night, because she was also
She's got her
struggling,
own.
postpartum and all that. So doing life as a married couple, doing parenting stuff, and also not having a support system, like, it takes a toll on you, right?
Yeah.
And
So how
I left.
recently did your parents get there?
They got their permanent residency, I think, in 2019 or something like that. But then
wow. So
COVID
it's
started.
a few years.
Yeah, so I think by 2021, they probably moved here permanently. So it's just been a couple of years, but it's been amazing. I mean, not just for me, but also I'm so happy that my children get to enjoy their grandparents.
Totally.
Because I had that, and they are totally like obsessed with them, and it's amazing, right? So now it's good that we're all together. It does make a difference for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. What a relief. After all these years, you blazed the trail and led the way, and everybody followed you out there. That's so great. Is your husband's family out there too, or nearby?
No, they're all the way on Quebec, in Montreal.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So,
other side of the continent, basically.
Yeah, it's at least his mom is there. And so, yeah, she comes here a few times a year, but that's about it. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it was challenging for a few years for sure, not having anyone. But we are on the other side, and that's what matters.
Good.
And,
Good. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your crafty life. So you are a Stitch People person. Tell us about cross stitching. How did cross stitching come about in your life?
Well, I was not a kid that was ever into crafts. So I have ADHD. Not, how do you say? Not, how do you say when you get to a doctor and they tell you, oh yeah, you have this.
Like diagnosed?
Diagnosed.
Not
diagnosed. But man, the signs are clear.
Sure.
Since I was very little. And so I was a lot into actually sports, and I really like that. Like, I was really active kid.
Nice.
But my mom is, like her own version of Martha Stewart, was everything perfect, everything, like always looking like a magazine in the house.
Oh, wow.
My sister got the more artistic gene, because there's some in our family for sure, but I was never interested in anything that they will be doing. I was like, boring, bye, gone. And actually, I don't even consider myself an artistic person. I really don't. I think I'm really good at following things, but as like a creative person that I'm gonna come up with something, it's really hard for me. And I think it's because of my inability sometimes to focus. Like, I struggle, and like my mind, it's always in a million places. So it's very hard for me to zoom in and just get something, right? Get something, create
that
something.
Feeling.
Right? So after I had my first daughter, I was struggling a little bit with postpartum, and I wanted to create something for her. The first thought of me, I was like, I wanted to create one of those really cool amigurumi dolls. I didn't know they were called amigurumi, but I was like, I want to create that. And so I started a course on crochet something online, and I could not make the very first step to start a project for like 2 days. Like, I could not understand what they were doing with the hook and the yarn. And I was like, oh my God. I was able to get it done. I made this beautiful bunny for her, like a ballerina bunny. And I started with something so complicated, but I
He's
didn't.
like, sometimes you don't know until you're in it and you're like, oh no, what have I done?
Why? Yeah, like I should have started with like a little bird egg.
Sure.
No, I started with a full size of something.
Ballerina bunny. Good
Yeah,
for you for
and
finishing it though.
yes, I finished it, and that's where I think I got started into like the making something with my hands, because I realized how good it was for me to calm my mind, to just take a little bit of air and just sit down for a little bit. And it helped me to like just kind of like a meditation, and it really helped me mentally. And I was like, I was hooked. Literally, I was hooked. I wanted to be with the hook all day. Like I have 5 minutes. I was like doing something. And so after that,
great.
that was in 2016 when I learned. I actually wanted to take my mom to a Michael's or something. And I was like, hey, let's go take a class like for crochet or knitting. She's like, as she's holding her first granddaughter, she's like, that's for grandmas. I'm like, you are a grandmother, right? You're holding your first granddaughter. What are you talking about? And she's like, no, that's too, I can with that. It's too boring. I'm like, okay. So I continue on. And then when I was looking at when I bought my Stitch People book, the 1st one, I bought it in 2020 in April. I remember for my birthday. I remember the world is ending. And I remember that I saw, I remember talking to my sister and saying, I need something else from crochet. Like I need another craft, but I just don't know what. And I remember talking on the phone with her, and I was going through Pinterest, and I remember I saw one of the pictures that you have in the book on Pinterest. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. What is this? And I remember taking a screenshot and sending it to my sister. I'm like, I would love to learn something like this. And then I found your website, and I was like, oh my God. So I got the book as a gift because my birthday is in April. And I was like, yes, this is for me. I bought it.
Perfect timing, right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Perfect timing, right? The world was ending. I was like, it's ending. I got to get this done.
Might as well go out stitching.
Exactly. And but I didn't know that I was going to be so busy at home, because then I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And I didn't have time at all. So I had to put it away. And then as soon as the world opened at some point 2021, I think, my sister and I took a weekend trip to Vancouver Island. And when we got on the ferry, I'm like, don't talk to me. And I was like, the book. I already had, like, don't, I need to focus on this. And like, I already have bought some supplies. And when we went to the hotel, I remember telling my sister was pregnant at the moment. So she wasn't feeling up to like going thirsty and be walking a lot. So I was like, I'm okay if we spend the entire time at the hotel just eating and doing my thing. Like, I'm okay. Because I needed that also. Like, I've been at home with my kids with COVID, like, the COVID situation. And I was like, I just need quiet and like tranquility.
That's a long time of very intensive, just 24/7 kid time.
Yes, exactly. So I was like, I need quiet, and I don't mind staying at the hotel, and that's what we did. I remember, I also remember the first question that I went and asked in the group, and I was just fascinated, like so happy with these tiny little things, that you can create. And I remember, of course, right away, I started to make, the portrait for our family. And like, I remember that, of course, I've never tried either embroidery or cross stitch. I actually try in Mexico, but it's different. It's a different, I wouldn't say it's completely different, but I think you can Google like Mexican cross stitch or something like that, and you will get. It's not in like Ada fabric. It's in normal like cloth type of fabric. And it's printed on. And you make like the cross, and you make these very traditional Mexican designs. I had that as a kid. One of my grandmothers, I think my grandmother's sister taught me that, but I was like, this is no, I can't, but I remember doing it.
As a kid, it's hard to slow down and focus, on just that. totally
Yeah,
know
but I
that
remember
feeling.
liking the lots of colors of thread. Like I always like
Well, and that those
color.
traditional Mexican embroidery designs are out of this world, just beautiful,
Yeah,
colorful. I
really
love,
colorful. Yeah,
yeah, so
exactly.
gorgeous.
So I started, and then I really liked it. I enjoy, and it truly has helped me get through my. I suffered from depression for a few years.
Yeah,
It definitely got worse during COVID because obviously why not? It wouldn't,
right.
but
Oh my goodness.
it has definitely taken me out, helping me to get out of it. So
Oh,
I
good.
mean, I think during summer because kids are out of school and I have to, I'm with them all day. I stop, right? Like I take my breaks because if they're running around like, huh, it's sometimes too distracting. It's not
Right,
serving the purpose that I want. Like I want the tranquility,
right.
the quiet, the blah blah. So I stop, and then I think after summer I was just losing my mind. I was just like, they'll say something. I'm like, I don't know,
Go away.
So yes. And my mom asked. She actually brought it up to me, and it was the first time that it made sense. She was like, when was the last time you touched your portrait things? And I'm like, I don't know, May. And she's like, take it, please. Like, go grab some stuff, sit on the couch, and start. Because
Good
I
mama.
can
I
tell.
love that.
Yeah, I can tell that you need some. And it's true. It's the only place, either that or crochet, where I can truly quiet my mind.
Hmm.
Truly quiet my mind. And that it's an extremely difficult challenge for me. It's I think sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you, that my mind is going all these directions and different things, and sometimes when it's really bad, I'm like, am I going crazy? Like why I cannot just, but I can't.
I
And
know what you mean. And it's like you've got like multiple different tracks going at all times. Like you're
yeah,
thinking through the family stuff and the life stuff and the house stuff and the, what projects you're doing and the people you have to call and the work stuff. And it's like all of the highways in your brain are
definitely.
like full bumper to bumper traffic 24/7. And
Exactly.
it's hard to it's hard to just choose to not think about things. It's
No,
hard to just like,
exactly.
and we're quiet now, especially at night. I just lay there like all
Yes,
the things, thinking through all
exactly.
the things. So, I know exactly what, and you do sort of question, like, is this normal?
No,
Am I supposed to have this much stuff in my head all the time? Yeah,
I, I,
it's a
I,
lot.
when I find myself that it's really bad is when I go to bed, and for some reason, either maybe one of my kids woke me up or something woke me up, and right away my mind is going. I'm like, this is not okay. Like, and
Right.
so I always have to. So when I go to bed, I have to listen to something. So I just stop listening to my mind, and
Yeah.
just and
Yeah, because it
go
gives you
back to
something
sleep.
else to focus on. That's just one thing, like an
Yeah.
audiobook or a podcast, or sometimes I'll put on the news because it's just the voices. It's like it distracts my brain enough to not be able to sort of think my own thoughts, which
Yeah.
is, even though I'm listening to somebody else, it's better than listening to a million things.
Well,
So it
yeah,
can
because
actually
you
calm
have
down.
to. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
have to. I've noticed that when I don't stop thinking, and I can tell that my mind didn't have this deep, deep, deep rest in the morning. It's like I didn't sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Like I look
Totally.
even worse than I look, the
Right.
day, the night before. So yeah. So for me, therapeutic 100%. I love
Yeah.
it. I think
Oh,
there's so many
good.
challenges for me within the craft, that one of them at the top of it, and I think one of the worst ones, is try to be this perfectionism. Is it's big on me, and
Yeah.
it kills everything. It kills
Yeah. It's hard to even
everything.
start.
Yes, you get so overwhelmed by wanting to make it maybe either how you envision it in your head or how
Yeah.
it is on the paper. And then if it doesn't come out that way, I don't have a problem ripping apart and doing again a few times. I really don't. Like, I don't like to rush it just to
Right.
get it done. And no,
Right,
like,
right.
I
You want
like
to
to
do
take
it
it.
just
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then when it doesn't come out the way that I'm envisioned, And
It's tough.
sometimes it's tough. And sometimes I wish that first of all that will go away because that will make my life way easier.
Right.
So it's something that I have to work, especially when working on something that is so personalized, right? Like you want it
Yeah.
to be to look like that person that told you, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, I can do it," and you're like, "Turns out
Right.
I can't." Turns out it's not as
At
easy,
least,
right?
or at least not the way that I thought I could. Well,
Yeah,
that
and
leads me
most
to a question. Do you mostly stitch portraits for for yourself, like gifts, doing them for friends or family, or do you take commissions?
I
How,
am.
what,
Yeah.
how do you spend your time stitching portraits?
Yeah, so I do commission. I do take lots of commissions. Most of them are commissions. I would love to take more, and I would love to also like take it to full time. But it's really challenging with being it's also a stay at home mom.
Yeah.
But I do now that my kids are both in school for longer periods of time. It's easier. Like I know I have at least these many hours to get done, and so every day it's
Perfect.
like a race because I don't like to race it, but just like, okay, sit down and start, just,
Right.
go. And sometimes also, yeah, like it will bother me like, well, it's taking me longer because I'm such a perfectionist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I don't know how to do it any other way. And it's really
Yeah.
hard to just drop this and just, oh, I don't care. I, I can't.
Well, hey,
It's
maybe you don't
horrible.
have to. Maybe that's your maybe that's what makes your style and your skill so uniquely is that because I kind of am in the same way. Once I have an idea, for example, like if I'm doing a dog that has a ton of colors and I'm like, oh, it would look really good if I, did this leg with these three colors and that leg with two of this color, one of that color, and to get it just right. And it's so much color changing and starting and stopping, and it takes so long. But once you've had the idea and you can envision it, it's like, well, I can't do it any other way. I gotta try. But there's something to be said for that because that's that's your process. That's what makes your portrait special.
And I remember that I think you said something about when they started coming up with the ideas of real hair
Mm,
and how you were at first, you were freaked out like, hey, no, this was
yeah,
supposed
it's a
to be
cross stitch
easy.
portrait.
It was
Yeah,
supposed to be
yeah,
easy, not stressing people out and
uh-huh,
stuff like that, right? But
yeah.
everyone takes it differently, of
Totally.
course,
Yeah,
right?
not that
But
those real hair techniques are bad in any way, but
no,
when other people feel pressure that like, oh, I should really try that, it's like you don't have to.
no, you
It's
don't.
okay.
And
Yeah.
also, like, for me, that's when you're this is where I always struggle. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this because it brings me joy, peace,
Mm-hmm.
tranquility in my life, but then it's stressing me out because I can't get this done and it's just not like, how is this is not how it's supposed to be. But I do think that there's something, when you put your heart into it, you're trying truly your best to be, you know the best that you can, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that until it takes over your mental health. If you're
Totally.
not
And that's
there,
being aware of it, I think, is the key of, like
yeah,
you said, oftentimes things are both, like people who enjoy exercise are often sore as a result. And that's not fun, but it's
fun.
just, part of it. Like, I think there's, what do they say? Opposition in all things. So there's always going to be sort of a give and take there. But I think the key is exactly just what you said of being aware of sort of the why behind why you're doing it. And if it's really, oh, I've got to hustle, I've got to bring in side income, then maybe kind of some added stress isn't so bad because you're really
That's it.
trying to hustle. But if the point of it is for some you time and peace and tranquility, then you've got to balance those limits of how much
Exactly.
work you're taking on and how perfection how perfect you want to be about it. Which is
Yeah,
and the answer to that is going to be different for everybody. So it sounds
very
like you're in
different.
a really good place of understanding at least kind of your balance and being able to kind of rein it in or do a little more or whatever your life can
Yeah,
allow.
definitely. I mean, I do try to, for example, a few days ago, I finished my last commission, and yeah, how do you say, the person that bought this piece from me, she made a comment about the dog that was in the picture, in the portrait. And it completely like, I don't want to exaggerate and be, telenovela dramatic, but it broke me. I was like, oh my God, because I was like, do you have any idea? Like, how much work goes into this tiny little thing. Like, it's so small, right? Especially pets. Oh, they can be difficult,
pets.
Right?
Yeah.
Pets can be very difficult, and then they're teeny tiny. And so I was like, oh, I really wish that I didn't receive that message, because it bothered me. And then she apologized, because she wasn't rude or anything, but I was like, oh, it's if you only will see me, like you said, put in 3 colors of one color here, put in 2 over here with another mix, and mixing all these colors, and I think you would have saved that comment.
Yeah, people, and I think the answer to your question is that people don't know, and that's why some people, I want to buy a portrait. Is it $20? It's like, no.
$20, yes.
It's going to take like 10 hours of highly skilled and highly creative work. And it's really deceiving, because it is small, but it takes so much time.
I remember when my husband, when I made one for him for his office, someone there saw it and like, oh my God, that's so cute. And he's my best promoter. It's like, oh, my wife does this and this and that. And
I love
she's
it.
like, oh, yes, he's really supportive. He's like, oh, well, no, she said, how much do you think like a portrait for family members is? Like $20? And he was like, oh. And my husband, you don't want to tell that to him. He will not like it.
He'll come to your defense.
Get out
I love
here.
that.
Just go. Just no.
Yeah, you don't get it. You don't get it.
No, you don't. And like, exactly, if only they will see the amount of time, not just the stitching, the pattern, and then the color matching, the designing of any special clothes that's going to be involved. It takes all of you, and you put so much love and effort into it.
Yeah.
It should be reflected. And actually, you have helped me to, put more value into it, because we all do, of course, lower our prices, because we're scared that who's gonna buy this, right? Like, that's our constant thought, but it takes a lot of work. And
does.
It's been very eye-opening, like, in the world, like, it hasn't been easy in the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And there's people, of course, that they're struggling. I think we all are at some degree. But also there's people that it has continued. And like, you'll find people that will pay for your stuff, even in the recessions, like, it happens.
Absolutely.
I see that in my sister. She's an amazing artist, and her business actually took off during COVID. And her stuff is not cheap at all. It's, she puts a good price tag on it.
Good.
And boom. And I was like, you know what? It's eye-opening, because we tend to do that, right? Like, you lower yourself, and
totally.
And you have helped me with that.
It's easy too, because your skills to you are often second nature. Like, I can stitch up a quick portrait. It's no big deal. But that is a specialized skill. We have a friend who, Spencer, and he went to lunch recently because he does woodworking and wants to kind of turn that into more of a business, and was like, hey, can I pick your brain about it? And he was telling about a project that he was doing for a neighbor or something. And he said, well, I told him I would do it at cost. So I just kind of added up the materials, and I'm thinking I'll give him this price on, whatever it is he's building. And Spencer was like, your time is a cost too. Like, you can still give him an at cost price. I keep playing with my phone case. I don't know why. I keep noticed it in the screen. You can give this guy an at cost price, and still pay yourself, maybe paying yourself a lower wage than you might otherwise ask, but at least enough to cover your time. Like, your skill and your time is valuable. And if you're doing something for somebody that means you're not doing something for somebody else. So if the first person that you're doing it for, you're giving some kind of deal, or it's a friend or family, or there's a discounted rate, well, you still need to account for the time and the effort. And so many cross stitchers, because they start cross stitching, it's a hobby, it's a craft, it's something I do for me, that somehow that diminishes the value of this skill. It is a skill. Not everybody can pick up a needle and thread and make what the people in the Stitch People community can make, you know? And so, yeah, I love, anyway, as you can see, I get all fired up about it, but it's so easy to diminish your own value. For so many reasons, whether you believe that your time is worth a certain amount or not, there's imposter syndrome, or like you said, that you're afraid that like people won't want to buy it. But there are 7 billion people, 8 billion, I think we just crossed actually, 8 billion people in the world. There are plenty of customers to go around, and the people who get it and who value your stuff will find you for sure.
Definitely. Well, even this last portrait that I told you about with the dog, that she has asked me for a portrait 3 times prior.
Oh, wow.
And always said no. And this last time was the highest price tag that I gave her. And that's when she said yes. So to me, it's either maybe it wasn't about the price. It was maybe something else. I don't know. But yeah, this last time, I was like, okay, you know what? My skills have changed quite a bit, because I make sure that every single time that the thread goes down, like it's flat. It's like I paid so much attention to my stitching, and like I deserve to be paid this.
Totally.
And she went for it. She was like, okay. I was like, what? Okay.
Well, hey, and maybe she saw that you raised your prices and wanted to pull the trigger before you did it again. Like, you never know. There's a lot of psychology behind it too. But man, good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
And also adjusting for inflation. Like, everybody else is adjusting for inflation. Why shouldn't we? Shipping is costing more. It costs more to buy materials. That's the other thing about like a low price portrait is like, cool. So the raw materials of a portrait, if you include the hoop, I mean, you're looking at $10 maybe, which is not nothing. So, but if you're only making like 20 or 30, there's the whole third of what you're making is just gone to cover materials. And so there's something to be said. There's something to be said for valuing your skills and your time.
Definitely.
I'm all for it. Especially when it's more than just time, right? It's more than just skill. It's also, for sake of our conversation, you hold yourself to a very high standard. There's this level of perfectionism that you're going to deliver, but also that causes you stress. So how much is that worth to you? I mean, we always talk about doctors and lawyers who have, these typical high-paying jobs, and like, well, they deserve that high pay because of all the stress, they're these life and death situations. And so of course, they're fighting the justice system, or they're doing heart surgery. Of course they deserve 7-figure salaries or whatnot. And I'm not saying they don't, but we often discount the stress of our own jobs and things. And especially with kids, especially with other things in your life that take up your time, you do have to figure out how much its worth is, I guess, is the word I'm looking for.
Because we totally would do something like, well, either it's not as stressful or it's not as difficult as being a lawyer, but that doesn't mean that it should be something that is so low in, because it's very low cost to make, but the time that it takes to actually get it done, it's quite a bit, and it's such a special gift. It truly is something that probably a lot of people don't have, right? Like, I guess the closest to that, it's so personal. It's a photo shoot of your family. I think that's the closest, right? But then something out of kind of like a cartoon or type of way to make that photo shoot into something like that. It's so unique. I really love it. It's just I think there's so much potential to it. And to me, again, the therapeutic aspect of it, I think I never in a million years I thought that I would be able to sit down and quiet and calm and just like doing my stuff,
Yeah.
and and actually take it then out of the hoop or finish it, and you're like, you're like so happy, like it brings you joy. It's just
Yeah. It's such a
crazy.
great feeling to like finish one just the right way. What
I
do you
know.
like to do while you're stitching? Do you watch TV or movies, or do you listen to music or audiobooks? What do you like to do? Or is it something that you do around other people? Do you talk with your
No.
husband or your kids, or is it just kind of you time?
No, it's my me time. It's
Mm,
quiet, and no, well, it's quiet like when it's quiet in the house. But I always have the TV on. I always have a show going, something that I have already maybe watched or something. Or I'll put something that it's easy to listen to that I'm not have to be focused on.
totally.
If it's a
That's the
new
key.
show. But I remember like some portraits, and I remember like the shows that I was watching while I
I'm
was
the
stitching.
same. Yeah.
And sometimes for some reason, and it's gonna sound so weird, and I asked my mom, I think is the only person that I've said this to, that for some reason, when I'm stitching, I'm more inclined to put on something that it's really, how can I say, like Breaking Bad, and like really with lots of bloods and like shooting and stuff. I'm like, it's kind of like this super cute thing that I'm doing, but I need something like, you know,
You've got the
badass in the
drama on in the
background. Yeah.
background. Well, and that helps too, because if your focus is on, it's a great way to consume dramas, because if you're looking at the cross stitching and you're not actually watching, the dramatic thing or the violent thing or whatever, you're still getting the story as you're sort of peripherally watching, but mostly just listening. So you can kind
Yeah.
of see what those shows are about without actually having to like glue yourself to it, which is
Exactly.
nice.
And I love it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love to have that. I mostly do those type of shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always when I'm by myself. No,
That's
not with anyone.
nice. Oh, I
Yeah.
like that. So
How do
tell
you
me a
do
little bit
it?
more. What was
You
that?
do it by yourself too, or you do it
Oh,
with
yeah.
people?
Oh, no one's ever asked me. Well, Spencer and I hang out together kind of all the time. So we don't have kids yet. So usually if I stitch a portrait, it's usually in the evenings. I'll take my stitch stuff to the living room and get in my comfy chair, and we'll watch a show together, and he'll be on his computer, play video games or something, and we'll have a show on in the background, and it's just kind of hanging out time.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
very very similar,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we both sort of use it as our like our me time, but we're in the same room. You know what I mean?
Together. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can see that.
So
That's cute. Yeah.
yeah. So tell me about your business a little bit more. So what pushed you over to start selling portraits and taking commissions, and what does that look like? You said your husband's a cheerleader at work, but how do you get orders? Are you on Etsy? Do you advertise? Tell us a little bit more about your back end.
I started just with Facebook, like
Oh, nice.
advertising on Facebook, not buying ads or anything, but like either in groups or those
Sure.
type of things, and it has worked really well. I think it works for the amount of time that I have to actually stitch, because I don't want to take a
Perfect.
commission and then, which nothing wrong with that, taking a month. Like I wanted to
Right.
get it going, right? So ideally, I would love to take this full time and be that, and I think I still have maybe this year and another year to like maybe get there, because that's when my son will be full time in school. Like, he'll be in kindergarten, so he'll be all the same hours as my daughter. So it will be easier to get more things done.
Mm.
But I started that way. And also by word of mouth, like people will be recommending, and I'll just post it in wherever I can on Facebook. I
Awesome.
actually never. I want to go for Etsy. I did, and I think I did open the shop on Etsy, but it's complicated, right, to start,
Mm.
because
Yeah. And
you know
it's easy to get lost, and it's
get
a lot to
lost. And
maintain, and
and also like the fact that how Etsy gives you the certain time to deliver, and then if you don't, it's kind of like it goes points against you. So I didn't
right.
want to take the chance there. I was like, you know what, let's start here. This is comfortable,
Yeah.
this is nice, and I
A little more
think
flexible.
yeah, more flexible. It won't stress me that I have to get this done, because you never know, sometimes things are crazy with my kids, and
Mhm.
something's happened, and I wasn't able to touch my portrait in a few days. So I started that way, and it has worked great, to my capacity, to my time. So
Good.
that's where
Oh,
I
I
do it
love that.
mostly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Embracing what works for you.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Okay,
without the
well, we are
stressing.
sort of nearing the end. I kind of can't
Yeah,
believe how time has flown.
I
But
know.
before we do, I want to just do some rapid fire favorite things questions for you. I tried to do it last season, but I would get sidetracked with tangents. So I'm trying to be better about that. So tell me, do you have a favorite color?
No, not at the top of my mind, but all the peaches, all those rusty colors, that's where I am.
Yeah, like the fresh neutrals kind of.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
that.
if I go on a tangent really quickly, I mean, that doesn't say that that's what I like right now, but
That's
right now
beautiful.
I'm going towards the brights just because I need some
Yeah.
color. It's been cloudy here for a week, so
Well,
I
hey,
need
that's a
color.
great way to do it is to have sort of neutral base, neutral furniture, neutral walls, but then you can add the pops of color with blankets and
Exactly.
pillows. Easy way to go. Do
Exactly.
you have a favorite season of the year? Spring, summer, fall, winter?
Here we only have the one season, rain. So I'll say fall is definitely my favorite. I don't like summer because it's too hot for me, but fall I can do sweaters
Yeah.
all year long if I could. So
Love a
fall,
sweater.
definitely.
And what
Yeah.
about climate? You've lived in a bunch of different climates now. What's your preference? Do you like the dry desert? Do you like the humid? Do you like something in between?
Something definitely in between. When it's been really hot here in the last few summers, which is really
Mm.
scary because really hot. Like one year, I think last year or the year prior, like in the 40s. It's like what is
Oh, wow.
happening? And we actually had like we are having fires every single year now. It's really
That's
bad.
like Utah. Oof.
Yeah, so it's horrible. But then when people will tell me like, "Oh, but you're from Mexico, like, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, where did I move to? I moved away from that place.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
already pay for
that's a
that."
dry heat versus the humid heat, which is a
Yes.
totally different beast.
Oh,
So
neither. I
sweaty.
don't like it. I just,
Yeah.
you know what? A little bit of cold.
You need to
That's
go to San
where.
Francisco or something, right in the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah.
Okay.
Like it's.
How about favorite vacation destination?
Hmm. I will say UK.
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 It's the
Oh,
countryside dream. Do you
oh
have a
yeah.
favorite musician or band or album or song or something like that music wise?
Right now, we're
Genre?
a lot into Imagine Dragons. My kids are
Oh,
obsessed
nice.
with them, and like my youngest could sing a few songs. He barely speaks English, but he does it. However
I
he can,
love
but he does
that.
it. So Imagine Dragons is what's mostly
Oh,
playing at
yay.
our
That always
house.
makes me really happy. I
I
was,
was like,
Dan Reynolds, the lead singer in that
mhm.
band, was in my program in college. And he left early to go move to Vegas to really
Yeah.
put his time into Imagine Dragons. And then from Vegas is where they took off. So every time I
Wow.
hear it
Yeah, yeah.
when I'm out and about, I'm like, I know him. That's so great.
Wow,
It's just
that's
fun to see
so cool.
friends
I
and like here
love.
you are in Canada. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's
we
so
love
great.
it.
Okay,
We
Imagine
Their
Dragons.
songs
They're
are
great.
amazing.
Good
Yes,
hype
they
songs.
are
I love
great.
that.
Their songs
Yeah.
are wow. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of fun. Cool. Do you have a favorite TV show? Since you were a show
Ah,
watcher while you stitch.
very. One I could watch quite a bit, like Bloodline. Do you watch
Mm,
Bloodline?
I've heard of that, but I've not seen it.
It's
I'll have to
good.
add it to my
This
list.
story is fantastic. The acting is great. There's nothing corny about it. Oh, it's great.
Oh,
It's short
good.
lived though.
Okay.
It's like only 4 seasons, but they are great.
All righty. That's a good plug. And now I'm curious, do you have a favorite food? We'll do savory. Do you have like a favorite dessert food and a favorite, meal food or snack?
I
Sweet
could
and
have
savory.
sushi any time of the day,
Sush. Okay.
like
Love a
raw
sush.
sushi. I
Yeah.
could have it for breakfast. Easy.
And that's Spencer too. He loves it.
I don't know
I'm
why.
more selective. I really like it, but I don't think I can do it for
No, I
breakfast.
can. I could do sushi in the morning if you invite me. I'm there. And for sweets, I'm not much of a sweet person,
Okay.
so I'll take a cheesecake. But crazy, my husband loves to say this about me every time we meet with someone. I don't like chocolate and I don't like coffee, so puts me in a weird position sometimes for desserts at restaurants because a lot of them is
Sure.
like just the chocolate options. I'm like, do you have anything without chocolate? No, okay.
Fair.
So
That's okay. It's
yeah.
a strong flavor. I used to be like, how does nobody like, or how do you not like chocolate? How could somebody not like?
Mm.
But I respect it.
I
In
don't
my,
know.
I've kind of like I've become more of a vanilla. Like I used to love chocolate ice cream, but as I become an adult, I really like I don't know a vanilla flavor. So I could
Well,
see
my
that.
husband thinks it's the weirdest thing ever. I'm not kidding when I say that he brings it up every time we meet someone.
How funny. Oh, man. Okay, so tell me, what would be on your bucket list for like your next place you'd want to visit in the world other than the UK?
Definitely Italy,
Oh,
Spain, kind
nice.
of like a Europe tour. Italy,
Sure.
Spain,
Mediterranean.
yes, maybe
Yeah.
Greece. But
Nice.
if I have to pick one, I think I'll pick Italy. Italy. There's
Lots
some
of good eats
Italian blood in me, so I love to go there. I've never
Very
been,
cool.
so yeah.
Awesome. Well, Karina, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us what is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to be your friend?
Thank you. Yes, so you can always find me at whisperway.portraits on Instagram. And that's, I think, the only, or I'm also
Perfect.
the same way in on Facebook. But yeah,
Oh,
thank
great.
you so
Perfect.
much
And on Facebook and
to
the
you
community.
for having me. It was really fun to
Yeah.
talk to you. Really,
Oh, it's
a
always a
dream
joy.
come true, because you are
Oh, that's so
fabulous.
nice.
I love
Forget
it.
it.
Every when I used to watch your videos on YouTube, like the one when like a couple years ago, I was like, she's so fun. I want to be
Oh,
sitting
you're
on
too
the table
nice.
with her.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. Well, I love getting to know the people in the Stitch People community. I feel like we all have so much in common that it's always very easy to talk to people and to make friends. And yeah, I have definitely felt that way today. It's fun
Yes.
to
Are we
share
having
and
any
learn. And
live events soon in
oh,
this
man,
year?
that would be great. Like in-person ones or
Yeah.
virtual? I would
No,
love to do
in
an
person, because I
yeah.
want to go fly there and just
Oh,
be
it'd be
there,
so
you know.
fun. Maybe we should do it. Maybe we plan one for like the fall and give ourselves, kind of the year to plan
Fun.
it. We could do one maybe in September. I don't know. It'd be cool because
You
we
should.
did our first one February 2020 and we were going to do a fall one that year, but then obviously couldn't. And then we were thinking we'd try again for next year and then couldn't. And so it's just sort of been off the radar, but it'd be fun to do some get-togethers. So we'll put
I'm pretty sure lots
that
of
on
people
the
will be
back
really
burner.
excited to go and
Yeah.
hang out in person for sure. So
My
definitely
dream
looking
would
out
be
for that.
a Stitch People cruise. That's what I would fly to go do. Can you imagine how fun that would
Yes.
be? Take off,
Yes.
I don't know, San Diego or Galveston or I don't know, maybe Florida, but just go somewhere warm and we can all lay out on the deck and stitch together on the ship. I don't know.
know.
I think that would be fun. So
Definitely. Give me,
or maybe
put
we
me
could
down for
do
that one.
of those transatlantic ones and we'll wind up in the UK for you.
Imagine that. Oh, I would love that.
Oh,
All
I
the
love it.
hours to stitch by
That's
ourselves.
right. Oh,
Awesome.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Karina.
Thank you,
And
Lizzie.
we will see you around, I guess, on the Stitch People community.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day. Thank you. Mwah.
What a delightful person she is. I loved this conversation. I felt really inspired by a lot of what she had to say. And as you could see, I get really passionate about a lot of these subjects, but it's really, really fun to hear people embrace the worth of their skills and the value of their craft within the context of their greater life and priorities. So a big thanks to Karina for chatting and a big thank you for listening. If you wouldn't mind giving us a like and a subscribe and all that jazz, it really helps all the algorithms and everything and helps us spread more cross-stitchy goodness into the world. And if you need anything, check out stitchpeople.com. We've got our monthly subscription patterns releasing, our weekly free community-driven stitch along that you can join anytime. We've got new patterns coming out all over the place. So stay tuned for that. Join us in the Stitch People Club if you want to join our monthly Sip and Stitch. We have a big Zoom call with the club members and we all get to know each other and share what we're working on. It's a lot of fun and we'd love to have you join us. You could go to stitchpeople.com/club to check that out. And I just want to thank you all for being such supportive members of the Stitch People community, of everything we do and of each other. We couldn't do it without you. And a big thanks to the Stitch People team for all the work behind the scenes. Our jazzy tunes were created by Jonathan Boyle and our sound designer extraordinaire is my buddy and best pal, Brandon Yost. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Happy stitching. The Stitch People podcast is a production of Beansky LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved.